What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today for the second iteration of the preseason BFRs Game 2. Surprising results, to say the least. A 4-2 victory against the St. Louis Blues in St. Louis for their second preseason game. The Chicago Blackhawks looked not there at the start, but in the third period, just everything started clicking. 6 o'clock game on September 27th. The Hawks win 4-2, as I said. Shots were 33-26 St. Louis. Hits were 23-22 St. Louis. Faceoffs were 31-27 St. Louis. Power plays, Chicago 0 for 3, St. Louis 0 for 2. Knight saves 31 out of 33. Binnington saves 16 out of 16. And then Cranley goes in, who's an ECHL goaltender. He saved 6 out of 9. Things weren't really great when he was in net. Fowler was extended during the game, 3 years at $6.1 million for Cam Fowler. He's going to be 34 halfway through this season, so it's an interesting deal for how much he's being paid. But after his playoff last season with the Blues, yeah, he kind of deserves that pay raise. Longtime Anaheim Duck, and now spending a couple more years in St. Louis. And it was Fleury's last game. I was flipping between this Blackhawks Blues game and then Pittsburgh and Columbus on NHL Network because I just wanted to see Fleury play one last time, and it was a really great send-off. So probably the winningest goaltender of my generation. And of just one of the I wouldn't say top 10 because he did play a very long time and he played on some very good teams, but definitely up there in the top 20 probably goalies of all time conversation. Looking at the lines in this game, first line was Doc, Green, and Moore. Second line, Lardis, Cates, and Reichel. Third line, Mikheyev, Dickinson, and Lafferty. Fourth line, Tony Nato, Miziak, and Gavin Hayes. Little did we know the fourth line would be the most productive at that time. On the blue line, Korchinski and Allen, first pair. Grzelcyk and Crevier, second pair. Grzelcyk on a PTO. And Del Mastro and Murphy. The third pair, Ashton Cumby was also there as a seventh defenseman. Although I don't think he was in the lineup. So just the lineup, looking at the lineup, definitely more of a veteran lineup. You have Mikheyev, Dickinson, Lafferty. That very well might be a third line or fourth line for the Hawks. Jackson Cates is a minor league guy. Reichel playing in back-to-back games. Oliver Moore there, Colton Dock, Ryan Green. Nick Lardis is the interesting one. I thought he had some interesting opportunities. I will say my standouts for the game, Lafferty had some really good chances, and Tony Nato has to be up there. 2-point game for a guy who only played 5 NHL games last season. Only guy the Hawks signed in free agency that was notable. So, overall, pretty good games out of both of those two. First period, it did not start well. 14:03 to St. Louis goal to Dalibor Dvorsky, a former 10th overall pick. First of the season from Pekarsik. I wasn't trying to pronounce his name. And Fowler, justifying his extension to make it 1-0. 4:54 to St. Louis penalty to Dvorsky for hooking, which would be killed. Second period, 19:07, St. Louis scores bright and early. It's Braden Shen with his first of the preseason from Neighbors and Parayko to make it 2-0. 7:04, Chicago penalty to Crevier for holding, as the holding penalties really take over here. That's killed off. 4:34, it's a St. Louis penalty to Carbonneau for holding, which is also killed. 4:34 as well, there's a fight. It's Mailloux and Doc, and that really turns the game around for the Hawks. Doc and Mailloux fight. The Hawks really get some momentum out of that going into the third period. And at 1:27, St. Louis takes a penalty, which is also served by Carbonneau for too many men on the ice, which would be killed off going into the third. In the third, the Hawks start off with a penalty at 18:47. It's Connor Murphy for interference, which is killed. Lafferty has a break that is saved. 9:02, it's a Chicago goal, and it's Dominic Toninato, as I previously mentioned, from Murphy and Lafferty to make it 1-1. I forgot Lafferty had the assist on that one. And then, not even 30 seconds later, 8:35 is a Chicago goal to Gavin Hayes, his first of the preseason, from Toninato and Crevier to make it 2-2. So right there, Toninato picks up 2 points. Lafferty, Murphy, and Crevier all have an assist, and then Gavin Hayes gets a goal. Gavin Hayes is a prospect that's really gone up the ladder as seasons have gone on. Possible NHL potential, yes. Of course, there's been other Blackhawks, there's been other Blackhawks within the organization who've had the last name Hayes. Both Jimmy, rest in peace, and Kevin Hayes was a Blackhawks draft pick. So maybe Gavin Hayes is the next one to don the Blackhawks sweater with the last name Hayes. Lafferty has a break that's poke checked at the last second, and that was a great pass from Reichel. That was an excellent pass across ice from Reichel. Then Doc absolutely levels Sundqvist. Levels him at center ice. It was a clean hit. Sundqvist curved up and they went knee on knee, although you can't really do anything about it. Doc was leaning in, and then Sundqvist curved, and their knees just completely collided. That could have been a bad injury, but luckily it seemed everyone was all right. And then a scrum happens out of that. But the refs don't blow the whistle yet because Moore goes down the ice and he scores. Good on him for following up on the puck and playing till the whistle. 3:01, it's counted as a good goal. It's a Chicago goal to Oliver Moore, his first of the preseason unassisted, and the Hawks have the lead 3-2 with 3 goals in the third. St. Louis fans aren't happy. They start chanting BS, the full word. St. Louis then pulls the goalie with 1:05 left. Joseph is saved. Fowler has a chance that is saved. 18.4 seconds, there's a timeout for St. Louis. But with 3.2 seconds left, the empty netter by Jason Dickinson seals the game, unassisted. And the Hawks take the win in the preseason game in St. Louis. Of course, tonight they will face off against the Minnesota Wild in their third preseason game before heading home for their final 3 preseason games. And then the season starts in Florida, who now will be without Barkov and Tkachuk. Barkov for the entire season, Tkachuk until at least December. So, very interesting season coming up so far. It's going to be a good one, I think. I think it's going to be a very interesting season to watch hockey this season. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and I shall see you all in the next one. Have a good one.